If you didn't know this, there are groups. No, there are types of African parents, especially right now in 2026. And the basic types are the damage dealers. These are basically the ones that resolve any and all small problems with the belt, or any object within bird's eye view. I know this type well, for I was a victim to such beasts of the jungle. Let me give a tiny example based off my life a little. Once, before I understood what life truly was, I invited my mother to my school consultation. This is where parents meet teachers to talk about how badly or how good you've been performing. Everything was going good. My mother met 6 of my teachers and everything was smooth. But then there was one left. The worst one. The one subject that I would occasionally avoid in order to play in the computer lab at my school. It was my first time seeing computers, okay? Don't judge me. They talked very briefly, and in that moment I could see my mother's face shifting before my very eyes. After he was done fueling the flames, she turned towards me with a very fake smile and whispered in my ear, "I'm going to beat that little demon out of you once we get home." Right then, off the bat, I started dripping tears down my face, bro. Because I knew, dog, I knew I was cooked. And the anticipation was even worse. Death awaited me. But one thing you gotta understand, these damage dealers typically raise well-behaved kids. Or at least ones with the most amount of manners, because they have been literally physically shaped and groomed growing up with the belt of discipline. Right and wrong is installed the hard way, and for most people it works. Not for everybody, but for most it does. The second are the Delulu thinkers. These are just stupid in my opinion. They see their little monster doing the most dumbest of things, but will typically either yell or leave it alone. They're too afraid of beating the discipline into their little demon because they think it will turn them into even worse devils. In my country and language, they call this Anozeta Nunungana. Usually, you know the kid was raised by this type of parent if the only thought running through your head in his presence is to smack the living demon out of that kid. And then there's the debuffers. These type of parents don't beat the living hell out of you like the damage dealers, and they are not oblivious like the Delulus. Instead, they punish you with words. They sit you down for a 3-hour lecture about how they walked through verified minefields to send you to school. These ones will bring you down to feeling like you are nothing. Even if you haven't done anything wrong, these will convince you that it's your fault and you deserve it. There are rare occasions that a parent could have both traits, the damage dealing and the debuffer trait. And these are just the worst combination possible, bro. You get the ass whooping of your life, and then after a couple of minutes of you sulking and staying silent, they'll hit you with the worst plot twist ever. Make you think you deserve the thrashing, and in the end, you end up believing it. Every single time it happens that yes, you deserved that ass whooping. There's the unstable connection. One minute they're the cool parent, 120 frames per second, smooth as hell. The next minute they're screaming over an unwashed spoon. They're glitching out. You never know which version you're getting, but you know they both exist within the same timeline, so you gotta tread lightly. These are just sub-traits that will probably be part of the major set. But there's also the camper. They stay in one spot, usually in the living room, waiting for you to make a mistake so they can snipe you out with a lecture. They don't roam, they wait. Oh, the most annoying version of this. You pass through the TV once or twice because you gotta fetch something necessary for a task the same person would have given you. But then you either get yelled at or thrown an object at you because you're interrupting the view from the freaking television. It's just no doubt that whichever you end up growing up with, there's always going to be plenty of action. You never get bored when you're an African child, my friend.